Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar potential playoff clinching edition, Ray. It used to be that, when we're like, oh, are the Hurricanes going to make the playoffs? It's like game 81, 82, and it's will we make it or not? Feels good to be 10 games out pretty much, and do they guarantee themselves a playoff spot today? So we will go through a little magic number math for everybody. I'm going to keep it simple, but we will talk about it kind of briefly, and we'll let you know why the New York Rangers, with their 77 points, don't factor in a bit for the Hurricanes. So how do you feel today, Ray?
Feeling pretty good. We got blasted with snow here, another about foot in Calgary. It was crazy. Now, this is the fourth winter. We've got about 3 more at least before the May long weekend. So it's not anything we're not unused to. Magic math. See, I'm so glad that you are taking care of that, because me and math have never, ever been good. You know what I mean? I just, that's why I got into broadcasting when I did. Less math, didn't have to worry about it.
There you go.
And we've got a lot to talk about. I mean,
teaching my fifth grader math, magic numbers I feel like I'm almost like, this doesn't feel like fifth grade math. Like this should be like eighth grade math. So it's not as bad. What the problem people run into, which we'll get into, is the not covering all the scenarios. Like it's really easy to miss something, right? I made 2 mistakes this week back to back because I did my math late at night and wasn't really paying too much attention. And then our friend of the show, Carolyn, was like, "Oh, what about the Rangers? Like if both the Jackets and Canadians both have 75 points with 2 games, isn't that an issue?" But we'll talk about that. So yeah, magic number math is like calculus. Like it's the kind of math that shouldn't be hard because it's just basic addition and subtraction.
Yep.
But it's all the permutations, right? That's what makes it complicated. So, but we'll get to there. The good news is we have a guest today.
Yeah, we got, and so just walking in the door here, pulling up a chair in the Storm Cellar, we've got John joining us today. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be on. Thank you so much.
No worries. The door's always open. We love to talk to the fans, the Caniacs out there. And as we found out last week, even Red Wing fans, I mean, we'll talk to anyone about hockey. And so we're so glad that you're here to join us. Now, he's been a regular listener, Brad. And so again, that's why, number 1 in Liechtenstein, but we're climbing the charts again.
We appreciate that. Yeah,
I know. It's always nice. And we focus on the fans, the fuel to the fire for the Hurricanes. I mean, honestly, it's like having the extra man out there, only it's better than the power play for the games, which again still seems to be terrible. Let's just call it that. Although it's coming around.
Improved, but terrible.
Yeah, it is
25th in the league.
Yeah, well, not too far from the bottom, I guess. But we want to hear it all from John, how you became a Hurricane fan. Did you migrate to us? Favorite players, favorite moments? We'd like to hear it all. And so we're going to turn the spotlight on you, John. Fire away. We want to hear about it because everyone's got a great story, and that's what we love. So take it away.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I came to the Hurricanes about 60 years ago. I grew up in South Carolina, and I remember hearing that the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup, and remember kind of asking a couple of friends like, wait, the Carolinas have a hockey team? They're like, yeah, it's up in Raleigh. So I was in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. 6 years ago, we moved to Raleigh. Family did. And when we moved here, we had told the kids, hey, there's a hockey team there. And they're like, oh, maybe we'll go get it. I grew up with traditional sports, football, basketball, baseball, swimming in the summer. So I knew nothing about hockey, had never skated, had never done anything. we moved here was January 1st, 2019, and the Canes actually sent us 2 free tickets. Got in the mail, a little card. So we were like, well, this is awesome. So we went to the first game we ever went to go see was in March against the St. Louis Blues of 2019. And I took my boys with me, and it was just an electric atmosphere. Now, I had been to a couple of minor league games, Greenville Growl and the Charleston Stingrays at that point. But to be honest, I'd come there to drink a beer and watch a fight. That's what I knew about hockey. So when I took my boys,
that's
it was
50%
just an
of minor league
electric
hockey, right?
atmosphere. And we got that when I went there. It was a good time. I took my boys, and they absolutely loved it. We loved everything about it. Now, during the game, my 2 boys were they showed the Learn to Play program up on the big screen. And my kids tell me, they're like, we want to do that. And I'm like, well, Dad doesn't know how to skate, so we're probably not going to be doing that, kids. Of course, that was the year that they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Started religiously after that, even though I had no idea about anything. Blue lines, icing, offsides, it was all foreign language to me. I have a clue about any of it. So my oldest son started playing and played all through COVID. At that point, my middle son decided to start playing hockey as well. We continued to get more involved with the hockey community, started going to a lot more games. My oldest son has transitioned to other sports now. My middle son is now on a travel hockey team. He plays for the Raleigh Raptors. So we are in the depths of it. And
Nice.
we've had the incredible ability to, my oldest son has skated on the ice during the Mighty Mites games at the Hurricanes twice. My youngest daughter, who just turned 7, is now playing, and she had the opportunity to be on the ice. She even got to do the interview after the game, the player of the game interview, which was hilarious. We have met players of the Canes through the house league, that they have children that are playing in it, playing in the Junior Canes organization. Have met them, so I've gotten to know a couple of the players. Go to a lot of games, and it is every night the kids are asking my wife, I'm asking, what time's the game on? We're watching every game. We're following it. I personally am a big analytics guy, so I love the analytics of the hockey. I'll jump on Puckpedia, multiple different websites, to drill down into analytics about how the team's actually playing, as opposed to just the eye test. And we love it. I absolutely love it. I am 100% a Canes fan. I don't really root against any other team except the Rangers. That's, it's the Rangers. So I will watch other teams play us too. It is easily our favorite sport, and we love it. We're at a rink. My wife is at the rink now. We have 2 games today. Our kids do. We're at the rink every day, every weekend. We're there 4 times during the week. It's amazing. We just love the atmosphere, the hockey community that it is. It's such a positive community, especially in Raleigh, and the way that it is growing. It's just remarkable. So
you know what's funny, Ray? So growing up, Tobacco Road basketball all the time.
Yeah.
The Panthers come in, and you saw a shift. I mean, football was always big, not like high school football, Texas big, but big, right?
Yeah.
Like, most boys wanted to play football, and we're talking to somebody who's got kids, and it's hockey, right? And to me, that's such a cool transition, because I can't tell you how many hours I played basketball as a kid, thousands of hours.
Yeah,
And
me too.
now we have kids growing up, and they're playing hundreds and thousands of hours of hockey. Like, that's the thing, right? We're right in the middle of March Madness. Duke is, I think, in the Final 4, Final 2. I don't
Yes,
know.
they
I'm not
are.
really keeping up, but I think they won. And we're talking hockey, and obviously we're a hockey show, but it's cool that, we think about how hockey has become ingrained in Raleigh now, right? You drive around Raleigh, and nobody says, "Oh, we have a hockey team." Like, that doesn't exist anymore. So I love this transition. That's why we like hearing fan stories. I think is it shows the growth. Right. Charleston's not that far from Raleigh, but yeah, even, my parents are 3 hours from Raleigh, and they only get highlights and stuff for the most part. And it's like, again, it's a big state, but like you have a really good team here, and now that's saturating more and more, and it's going to continue, especially with the way that the Canes have been playing under Rod Brindamore for these last 6-7 years. So really cool.
And I'll tell you this, of course, in Canada, you're born playing hockey. You've seen the video of you might have seen the video of, how Canadians are born on YouTube. Basically, this guy wearing a Hurricanes jersey coming out of the water on the lake that's frozen over, and he just kind of skates off. That's how it is. And honestly, when I think about hockey parents, that is a huge commitment. And John, I've got to ask you, I know you love the game. The kids love the game, so that helps. But that's got to be a shock to the system too, for the commitment, and especially with traveling teams and stuff. Like, that's a lot. That is a lot. And sometimes I wonder how the parents are able to fit it all in, because it's amazing. It's amazing.
It looks like John's connection was unstable, so he dropped off. So we're just going to pivot and wait for John to rejoin us. So Ray, let's talk magic numbers for a couple minutes here.
Sure.
So once again, magic numbers, the math isn't difficult. There's just a lot of it, right? That's the big thing. So magic numbers, for people who don't know, is how many points you need to win or certain opponents need to lose in order to guarantee you mathematically are in the playoffs. Sounds simple.
And sometimes you need help and stuff, and you're right. It does sound simple, but
it's not.
It never. It's never.
So the short version is, if you look at, for example, I'm just going to focus on the Canes in the Eastern Conference. So right now, you have 8 teams in the playoffs and 8 teams not.
Yeah.
You look at the 9th team, and right now that's the Montreal Canadiens. They have 75 points. They have 10 games remaining. So if they were to go 10-0, that'd be 20 points. So their maximum amount of points that they could possibly earn for the season is 95 points.
Right.
So if you want to be in the playoffs, you need to be at 95 points or more, depending on the tiebreakers.
Sure.
Okay? So you need to have at least 95 points. The Canes right now are at 92 points. So their magic number is 4.
Yeah.
Right? That gets you to 96. If you get 96, that's more than 95. With 96 points, you cannot miss the playoffs. Now, in theory, it might be 3, because we would own the tiebreaker. The first tiebreaker is the number of wins in the season.
Yes.
And even if Montreal won their last 10 games, they would have 34 regulation wins as the first tiebreaker. So if you win more in regulation, that counts for something. It should count for more, but the Hurricanes already have 44 wins in regulation, so they would win the tiebreaker. So to be in the playoffs versus Montreal, the Canes need 3 points. Then, and this is the hard part, because people sometimes forget to do this myself included, is they're not the only team below the line. So now we look at the Blue Jackets. Well, the Blue Jackets have 72 games played, which means 10 remaining, 75 points, same thing. In order to beat the Blue Jackets, you also need 3 points, because you also own the tiebreaker. They have the exact same record as Montreal.
Man, oh man.
And the twist is, and our friend of the show, Carolyn, mentioned this, well, what if they both get 10 wins in a row? Now they're both at 95 points. I'm sorry, 95 points. And that's where that extra point comes in, because you don't want to be in a 3-way tie with those guys. So in my opinion, you just give it the extra point. So today, if the Hurricanes beat the Islanders in any fashion, and Montreal loses, if Montreal loses to Florida in any fashion, Hurricanes are in. Okay, that's a 4-point swing. Hurricanes are in. So if they win today and Montreal loses today, Hurricanes are in. And then you get weird ones. So right now, the New York Rangers are actually in 8th. So people might say, well, do you need to run the magic number for them? Well, if you look at it, they have 77 points. They're ahead of the Canadiens and Blue Jackets. But they have 74 games played. So 8 games remaining,
Yeah.
16 possible points. 16 plus 77 is 93. So to make sure you qualify for the playoffs ahead of the Rangers, you only need 1 point because, again, you have the tiebreaker.
Exactly.
Right. So it sounds, like I said, it's not convoluted, but if you break it down, if you ever want to do magic numbers on your own, do it one team at a time is the way I suggest it. Right. And you can start, you don't really need to start with the teams in the playoffs. It's really, you're just looking at teams and like typically like the 9, 10, and 11 position.
Yep.
Figure out one team, their max points. Figure out the next team, their max points. Figure out the next team, their max points. Figure out your team max points. And then just know your max points has to be equal to or greater than theirs, depending on if you want to bother to do the tiebreaker. A lot of people, I would say, don't worry about the tiebreaker. Just say we need one more point than the tiebreaker, right? Just make life easier for yourself. The good news, Caniacs, is, again, the East is a race of who doesn't want to be in the playoffs the most. Because the Senators do at 7-3 in their last 10. The Rangers are 4-5, sub 500. The Canadians are 3-4-3, sub 500. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 3-6-1, sub 500. The Islanders are 3-4-3. The Red Wings are 4-6-0. The Bruins, Penguins, Flyers, and Sabres are out.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that wild card spot again. And if you look at the West, Ray, I mean, at least the Canucks and the Flames are the top 2 teams out looking to get in. And at least they're positive. At least they have 5-3 records. The St. Louis Blues, they want to play playoff hockey. They're 9-1 in their last 10.
Man,
so
they surged.
To the teams in the East, specifically not the Rangers, the Canadians, the Blue Jackets, the Islanders, beat the Blues. I don't think I'd ever say that because I'm not a Blues fan. I really don't like them. But beat the Blues. If you want to make the playoffs, I don't know, go 9-1. That will help tremendously.
And you know, here's the thing. I love that you're able to do the math and figure those things out because I never spend the time looking at that. But I'll tell you, here's the thing. The team that shall not be named, as you just mentioned, if they go 10-0, right? Part of the issue of going 10-0 is they still have to play the Hurricanes. They still have to play other teams that they're fighting with, which is why you want to be shot like a cannon at the start of the season. You want out of the gate so fast because when it comes down to this, these teams are now all, like we mentioned last week, we were talking with our Red Wings fans. They've been playing playoff hockey since January. That's the importance of the games, where if you get a good start on the season, you can do all right. And when you get out of the gate like the Canes did, they were like 14-4 or something like that. Like they were fantastic out at the start. You never take your foot off the gas, but you put yourself in a good position where you're not panicked. You're not having to do more, playing a different style. Like now, on the other end of that, the ones that get in, they've been playing that style hockey for a long time. So they just need to keep on doing it. But that wears on bodies. Like that's why it's probably the wrong term. I call it a bloodbath. That's kind of what it is. And it's a little harsh and over the top, but there's no other way to put it. The fight to get in is so difficult. And Ottawa, you know what? They're showing that they want it and they've been playing great. And the other teams, it's just and they all end up playing each other. It's kind of like the NHL schedule monkey knows who's going to have the most difficulty getting in and purposely sets up games so that they play each other to make the games more
Right.
exciting
A lot of
coming
division
the
games
stretch.
late and stuff, right? That's
Yeah.
and what's
So
interesting is there's a fine line, right? The Hurricanes, the Capitals have been playing not meaningless hockey, but not playoff hockey for weeks. Like
yeah.
they've been at like 99% to make the playoffs for a while.
Yes.
That's not necessarily a good thing, but you also don't want to be fighting for your life. It's good to get in a playoff mode, but like you said, that's a wear and tear on the bodies, on the mind. So if you're like the Canadians, the Blue Jackets, the Rangers, you've already gone through like, a playoff mentality for weeks. Like that's also not good. You kind of want to be in the middle. Like I feel like the Devils are in kind of a good spot, maybe. Like they're pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs, but they still have something to play for in terms of staying third in the Metro,
Yeah.
right? They're probably mentally like that's kind of the spot I would want to be in some ways. I mean, President's trophies are nice, but we know what happens to President Trophy winners. Although statistically they actually do win the cup more than people who don't win the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like when you're playing meaningless games for weeks, you know,
Then to turn it on,
yeah,
it's hard.
you got to be
Yeah.
able to turn it on. Not every team can do that. And with the Capitals, I still think that once Ovi gets those last 6 goals,
Does that, yeah, there's
do they
something
do
to
they
that.
yeah, I mean not that they're going to give up, but like do they relax a little bit? Because if you relax in the playoffs, there's a good chance you're going home. It
Yeah.
only takes a
There's,
couple of games to put yourself in a bad position. So, and
well,
then
and
to your
think,
earlier point too, real quick, on the start of the season, a lot of
yeah.
people like, early season points don't count. Some people have that, like, you need to win games late, get in the playoffs. This is why early games count. Like, this is why you want a
Yeah.
hot start because it gives you some cushion because you're going to go through some losing streaks. And we know that this season has been kind of full of them. Like, we had 2 separate months that were pretty spectacularly bad, right?
Yeah.
And having a cushion to fall back and going, look, it's bad, but because of the hot start, it's not panic mode, right? So anyway,
Well,
go for it.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like the 2 seasons ago, when I think it was 2 seasons ago, it feels like forever ago, the terrible Western Canadian swing that the team had, and they were struggling and really turned it on in the end and had to, like that players meeting that they called and, leaving the West, getting into Ottawa, and then going on this tremendous pace. I thought it was something like 600 or 700 hockey that they played the rest of the way, and they got their way in a big way. Like that is not something that you can count on all the time. You know what I mean? And it was very, very unique for that season. Like I said, and everyone says this about baseball. I think you could say it about hockey too. You won't you won't win it all with the first few games of the season, but you can lose it.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. It's just such a you don't want to dig a big hole to get out of. And Brad, I mean, I know that there's still 10 games left for a lot of people, some much less. But I don't know if you looked at the playoff setups right now. If it had ended today, uh, it would
I
be
like it.
probably it's the
Well,
best setup that you could ask for, and
I
will.
don't like the Rangers being there,
Uh,
but
yeah, I wouldn't like them in there, but they're playing the Caps, and
yeah, but they
so
don't have Truba. Like, I mean, I mean, Rempe's a pylon. I guess maybe he would go out there
oh
headhunting, but
yeah, but you know it'll be physical. And here's the thing about goaltenders stealing games. Shesterkin is someone that can do that. But I'm looking at the other matchups as well. It would be Toronto versus Ottawa,
that's the one I would be excited for.
Battle of
Because
Ontario,
both teams playing well.
then the Battle of Florida, Tampa versus the Panthers. That's another one. That would be insane to watch. So exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, New Jersey. Everyone has kind of been saying, okay, this is
Throwback.
the way it's going to be and stuff, but that's a throwback. I mean, there's history there, so that feels good. And
Yeah,
then you
there's no
go
love
out
lost
west.
there.
Then you go out west. So Winnipeg versus the Blues, who are streaking. And as what I noticed, this is that would be a repeat of the Four Nations final goaltender battle, Hellebuck versus Bennington. Different situation, different teams, but still intriguing. Vegas Golden Knights versus the Wild, a newer battle. That's, very unlike the Kings taking on the Oilers again in the first round. That
Yeah,
would be
that's become
three
a
straight
fun one to
seasons.
watch.
It is. It is. But then there's the one that we're all waiting for and what we want to see. And that's Colorado taking on Dallas. My goodness. Like,
Yes.
there would not be a game. It would be hard. I think a lot of people would end up buying extra TV sets or find ways to just watch them all happen at the same time because you don't want to miss any of it. That's just, and of course, things can change, right? The West actually looks a little more set. You know what I mean? Because the teams trying to get in, Vancouver, Calgary, uh, they're about 4 to 5 points out, as I recall, and that's a long, like 4 and 5 points is a lot, especially at the end of the season. And as you put it very accurately, there's the interdivision games, and at Calgary playing Edmonton, last night, and Draisaitl scoring with 3 minutes left to tie the game and then scoring the overtime winner. And Calgary, you know, that stings. I mean, yeah, they got a point, but it stings. And I guess the one thing that I think if you changed the point um distribution, if you made every game worth 3 points, you might not have, and maybe this is part of the reason why the GMs haven't decided to go this way. I believe that if they made every game worth 3 points, it would be a more accurate display of who deserves to be in the playoffs and who doesn't. But it also would take away the excitement of the battles near the end of the season. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I think it
mean,
has that potential.
I agree with that, I think, to some degree, but it also means that teams like the Islanders, who have 32 wins and 10 OT, right?
Yeah,
Like a quarter of those are overtime wins. Like,
yeah,
why should that get rewarded? You know, Detroit only has they have the same total points as Detroit. Detroit only has 6 overtime. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
No, I'm following
like
you.
like the first, I mean, regulation wins is the tiebreaker, but like I feel like there should be more. Like if you can't win in regulation and you go to overtime, half your schedule, like come on, like
Well, and Brad, you know what? You just hit the nail on the head in the statement that the first tiebreaker when you have tied teams is a regulation win. So make regulation wins more
yeah,
important. Make it 3 points, 3-2-1.
yeah.
That's
We've talked
that's the
before,
way to
right?
go.
Every game should be worth 3 points because right now some games are worth 2 points and some games are worth 3 points.
Yeah.
So if you go to a 3-2-1 system, every game is worth 3 points. Either the winner gets them all or they
Yep.
split it with the loser.
Yep.
Right? I
That's
don't
the way to do it.
And just going back real quick out west, Draisaitl is back, but McDavid's still out with a lower body injury. He's
Yeah.
expected to return any day now, but it's been my opponent in fantasy hockey this week has McDavid. That was like his anchor, right? The,
Oh,
the one person he was relying on to try and beat me. And
sure.
McDavid's been out, and I am up, I think, 100 points.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
the we're in the playoffs, so it's a 2 week matchup, and I think
Right.
I'm up 100 points with like you know today's games to go for the semis. And when I win this one, I go on to the finals. So I feel
Good
good,
for
man.
you. Good for
I
you.
My playoff strategy or my fantasy strategy, just if anybody cares, I typically pick 2 or 3 teams that I know score points, and I load
Yeah.
up on players from those 2 or 3 teams. So if for the Hurricanes, right, I have Jarvis, I had Marty Necas, who's now in Colorado, which I kept.
Yeah.
Right, I tried to get Aho, somebody else snagged Aho, and I grabbed Svetch. So every time
Right.
Seth Jarvis scores a point, I knew Aho was probably also scoring a point, right? So it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
But I have Victor Hedman, Jake Gensel, and Kucherov.
My
And the other night,
goodness.
those 3 guys together got me 20 points, and I think my opponent's entire team got him like 11. So
That's when you
it's like
can
yeah,
get
you like.
connections like that, right?
I mean, McDavid scores a ton of points, right? He was the first pick in our fantasy draft. And my first pick was Kucherov. I said, I know if I go with Kucherov and somebody else, who's playing with him on the power play or on his line, I'm gonna outpoint you.
No
So
question.
good
No
stuff.
question. Fantasy
We're still
hockey is
waiting on
awesome.
John to come back. Hope he was gonna reboot completely and see what's up. Let's talk OV Chase real quick since we're kind of talking position and teams. Ovechkin, 6 goals from passing Gretzky.
I
It
didn't
could, in
think he had a
theory, happen
chance.
in
I,
Carolina. Like, I don't think it's going to at this point, right? Because we play the Islanders today, and the next game is Wednesday. So I don't think it's going to happen in Carolina, but it could. I mean,
it could. Here's the thing that blows my mind. He'd been out for what, a month, 5 weeks of games that he missed. And when he missed all of that, everyone kind of said, well, there's always next year. And now, I mean, he has the pace has slowed down a tiny bit, but he's good for empty net goals. I mean, he's been
they are
scoring
playing
a ton
Buffalo
of
today.
those.
I mean, that could
And
be a hat
so
trick day.
that could be absolutely so.
And
And
they have the Bruins Tuesday before playing us Wednesday, so he could do it. I mean,
he
5 goals
absolutely
against the
could.
Bruins and that Buffalo Sabres is not out of anybody's reach.
And which brings me the question, and I'll put it to you right now.
Hit me.
Would you want to be the team he's playing against when that goal is scored? And further, would you want to be a fan of the opposition in in the barn when it happens?
The second part's easier. Would I like to be there when it happens? Yes, that would be cool. I mean,
Yeah,
McDavid might come along and break the record sooner than we think, because a lot of people thought, hey, nobody's going to beat Gretz, right?
yeah,
But it's one of those lengthy things. It's one of those trivia question kind of sports questions, right? Who owns the most, goals in the NHL?
yeah,
So I'd like to be there. Even if it was against my team, I think I would like to be there. But then the question is, do I want it to happen against my team at all?
yeah,
Uh, yes, but only if my team wins. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
if the Hurricanes win 5-1 and that one goal is Ovi's, record breaking goal, yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Because then when everybody's like, oh, like the Gretzky or Ovechkin scored his goal, his record tying goal against you, like great. Do you know who won that game? Not you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
I'm just that's a little petty probably, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Oh, I'm a very petty man like that, and I'm the exact same way. Like it would to actually be there, and I mean, of course, being in Calgary, you have to watch the game. It would be great to see it actually happen. And I recall how a lot like back when Gretzky broke the record while he was with the Kings, they went on Kings Watch, where essentially you could see every Kings game because you didn't know when he was going to break that record. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the way that a lot of the networks are going. They're really focused on like watching the Caps games. They've even changed who is calling the games for Washington. Like it's not their regular play-by-play
Right.
guys. They're getting special ones to come in to be the ones that are calling it, which, it kind of blows my mind that that sort of thing happens. But I mean, it's exciting, and
Apparently, Gretz is following him around, is what I heard.
and he's got
Gretz is going game to game to be there
to congratulate him, and
Yeah,
that's he's got to do that. I mean, that's just
I have issues
that's
with Gretzky, but that's a classy move.
yeah, it is classy. Um, they're one of the teams that we play this week. The team that we play this afternoon as we're recording is the Islanders. And aside from the fact that they're fighting to get into a playoff situation, um, they might be extra cranky. They've always been cranky with us, but I want to focus on one particular issue that we're not going to be able to solve today, I don't believe. But this was huge, and it happened against another team that is fighting for the playoffs. Earlier this week, Islanders and Columbus. And late in the game, or a little later in the game, uh, Palmieri uh, gets a tip in front of the net, and they score a goal. And they think that they've got it. They think they've got it, but there's a review of the play to see if there was goaltender interference, which seems standard. I mean, he was like right at the top of the crease, which is where you're supposed to be when you're, screening the goaltender and so forth. The issue was, and this happens a lot when you watch it, is Merzlikins, I hope I said his name right, Elvis. We're not on a first name basis, but I'll call him his first name. He reaches out and pushes on the Islander in front of the net to get him a little further away. So he reaches out and gives him a shove. And then he's got about a half second, maybe a full second, where he resets and actually gets into position and still gets beat 5-hole. And the fact that they even bothered to look at this blows my mind.
Same.
He is the one that initiated the contact. Not, I mean, the guy, he was outside, he was real close, but he was outside the crease. And to me, there's a real easy solve for this. If your goaltender initiates contact, and it happens more than you think. I mean, when the guys get in front of the net and the puck's moving around on the outside and the goaltender's trying to find the puck and stuff, they always give that guy a little shot,
push, right?
A little jab or a push. And the second that you do that, and then there's a shot or whatever, the goal counts. You're the one that initiated contact. And to say that you couldn't get reset, well, maybe you just stay set up to make the stop without, touching the guy in front of you. And to say that that's goaltender interference, it's the same way where goaltender interference is waved off when the defender knocks the forward into the goalie. That should that should be an automatic, but we've seen that not called where they've allowed a goal in
Yeah.
it. So no one seems to know where goaltender interference is.
Yeah. I know some people disagree with the general consensus that nobody knows. I have seen people like, oh, I think it's pretty consistent. I really don't. I saw the play in question.
Yeah.
100%. That's according to the rule. That's not goaltender interference. Goaltender initiated outside the crease. Goalie had time to reset. There's when they were like, oh, like they're going to review this. I'm like, oh, that's going to stand. Like that's
Yeah.
as no brainer of a goaltender interference call as we can get nowadays. That was one.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been the Athletic, or I was reading an article the other day, and it basically was like, I think it was in response to the situation we're talking about, right? With Mersey, they basically said, just get rid of goal, just get rid of reviews for goaltender interference. Whatever they called on the ice, just go with it because you don't know. The replay team gets it wrong as much as they get it right. So just stop wasting everybody's time and pretending you know what you're doing because it's a bad look for the league. Every time that happens, and the NHL is the NHL, and they're never going to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
It looks bad. It makes the league look bad. It's why I don't really gamble on. Well, I don't really gamble in general, but that's why when I bet on the NHL, it's $1 because
Yeah.
I don't trust them to put in. I see people go, oh, I put $100 on the Canes. I would not do that because the officiating is terrible and things like goaltender interference get called wrong all the time. You can't. There's no quality control whatsoever. And other leagues now have started to do make refs available after games, or they'll put out a statement yeah, this ref blew it. That's one of the things I like about English Premier League soccer is sometimes they'll come out and be like, wow, the video review guys, the VAR team really screwed this up, and we're not sure, but we will investigate and figure out what happened and try and make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's all people ask is be honest.
Accountability.
You screwed it up. Yeah. We all have friends. We all have coworkers and bosses and our kids and our loved ones. And when they screw up, you just want them to say, yeah, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Instead of going, no, it wasn't me. No, that's just how it is. No, I'm not wrong. And that's how the NHL treats things like goaltender interference. I mean, go back to what I think is the quintessential easy way to determine if it's interference or not. Any part of the skate is in the blue paint, no goal.
Yeah.
Right? We've had that rule, and they screwed that rule up, and it cost Buffalo
a Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup. The easiest iteration of goaltender interference, which wasn't really, I don't think it was really a goaltender interference rule so much as it was just you can't be in the blue flag. They didn't call it a goaltender interference rule, but that's the easiest iteration. If any part of your skate is in the blue paint, goals will not count.
Yeah.
And Brett Hull's skate was 1,000. As much as I dislike Buffalo in general, I don't like the Bills, I don't really like the Sabres, I do like Kevin Adams. There is no love lost between me and the Sabres. They got hosed.
Totally.
Because you look at the replay and you go, that is 100% not a goal.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get that right. So how are you supposed to get the subjective one right?
Well, it's exactly the subjective one. And what a lot of them said, and especially when there's you get those greasy goals in front of the net and so forth. Like you said, the easy way to do it is you can't be in the blue paint, but you can't be in the blue paint before the puck is. If the puck is in there, on a shot and you're there for a rebound or there's a scramble or whatever, all bets are off because the puck got there first. Right. And that's easy enough to tell too with the overhead cam.
Right. Objectively, that should be obvious.
Yeah, right? It should be obvious. In fact, Bunting scored a goal on PK the exact same way. Kochetkov, kicks out a leg, couldn't hold on to the puck. It sneaks in behind him. Bunting skates into the blue, grabs it up, puts it away.
Right.
Good goal. Nothing to check out.
And to be fair, his skates, Bunting played the puck in the blue paint, but he wasn't, you know what I mean? He was still outside the paint.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of ways to do this. I think, the one that I suggest, especially with the goaltender interference and the goalie initiating contact, that's easy enough to tell. I think a combination of the two would be fine. And further, if you made it with the goaltender cannot contact the player in front, you maybe expand the crease another couple inches all the way around. You know what I mean? Like just make the crease a tiny bit bigger and it, and just make it the puck has to be in the crease before you, and it's an easy solve.
I think you need to go to an objective rule, because if they can't get the objective rules right, like I said, you'll never get the subjective rules right. If it's an opinion question, I would love to have not the NHL. I'd love to see anybody other than the NHL get all the NHL refs in a room and just show them clips and go, after each clip, you write on a whiteboard that you're holding, goal or no goal, and hold them up. And if it's not a 95% consensus, a 90% consensus every single time, then your rule is broken. And I think there'd be so many times that it'd be like a 60-40 split.
And you know what?
The one that, you know what still bothers me? Do you remember Aho was outside the crease? He made very minor contact with the goalie outside the crease, which is not defined by the rule.
Yeah.
Drifted back. The goalie had time to reset a good second and a half. Then he got a deflection and a goal, and they called that no goal.
Yeah. And
that one still bugs me.
It bothers me too. It's not like the a goal being retracted because of offside, which happened like maybe 10, 15 seconds earlier. They were offside. Like it's not like that, but there is still time to reset. And here's the one factor, and I believe it's the same Athletic article that you read. I read it too. And so much depends on how the goal is called by the ref.
Right.
How is it called? If they wave it off, they were at the GM's meetings. This is in the article that I read. And at the GM's meetings, they were talking about this immensely. A very important question. The ones that the ref waves off and says no goal, 52 out of 54 were not flipped. The power is still in the ref's hands. Frankly, unless it's like totally egregious, you have to take it out of a video reviews, hands. The ref is the one there that made the call.
Right.
Okay. And then you add the after game interviews where the refs have to answer the questions. And you don't send the home team's pack of wolves in there. I'm sorry. I used to be a reporter like that and so forth. So whichever team it is are going to pounce on them. You have one reporter designated to take the interviews with the refs. And every game they make a statement. Every game. If nothing happens in the game, there's no issues or whatever, it's an easy interview. But if there's a controversial situation that happens, you want to get the clarity and the transparency. That's all anyone wants. And it's a tough look, it's a tough job. Okay? Being an official in any sport is difficult. Okay? It's hard. But there are some things if you answer the reasons why you made this, and that includes saying I messed this one up. It's like it happened against the team that shall not be named, icing, where officials kind of forgot what icing actually was. And
I know exactly which player you're talking about.
Yeah. And So sometimes when that happens, instead of going to the other end and following the rule that you called the icing, I love it when there's a bad offside call or a bad icing or whatever, and they drop the puck at center ice.
Right.
Perfect solution.
I don't want a makeup call. Like, don't make it worse by
Yeah.
calling something. But yeah. Oh man, we screwed that up. Drop the puck center ice. Like,
Yep.
we screwed
Sorry,
up. My
guys.
bad.
It
Center
happens.
ice. I like that.
It's simple. It's easy. And it may annoy the guy who, hustled down and beat the icing because they could have set something up for it. Yeah,
Right.
but you're not being punished
Right.
for it either.
Let me ask you a question, Ray. What if
Sure.
we went the opposite way? Because the league is never going to allow the refs to be held accountable in that way. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. I don't see it ever happen. What if we go the opposite way? Anytime there's contact with the goaltender or
Yeah.
apparent contact of any kind, and they need to bring in video review, it's automatically no goal unless the review can prove it's a goal. You take the ref out of it entirely, which is the opposite of what I really want. What I really would prefer is kind of the athletic article to just stop doing replay. Just whatever the referee saw is what he saw.
Yeah.
But what if we do the opposite way? Because in theory, right? So hear me out. In theory,
Yeah.
if everything is a no goal that's under video review, per the NHL's own rules, if you can clearly see the puck cross the line, if you can clearly tell there's no goal to interference, et cetera, it's a goal.
Right.
Right? So the only ones that should be goals are ones where the video goes, yep, 100%, that's a goal. And if it's 75%, it's not a goal. Maybe it used to be a goal. At
That's
least
an
it's
interesting.
consistent.
See, you know what? At least it's consistent. What I would say is, yeah, that's tough.
I'm not saying it's better.
No. I understand what you're getting at.
Please understand. I'm saying this a little facetiously, but
I might go the other way.
it's a goal unless proven otherwise.
The
Sure,
puck is
fine.
in if the puck is in the net, then it's a goal automatically, and then you go and prove that something agreed. Well, not even egregious.
And the reason I said it the way I did is right now I feel like that's kind of the standard. More often than not, it is called a goal. And then we see something as fans, and the league's like, nope, that's not goaltender interference. I'm like, yeah, it definitely is, or reverse.
Yeah.
But if you say automatically it's not a goal, then the league has to go, is there goaltender interference? Did the puck fully cross the line?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're basically putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the replay official to get it right every single time. And in theory, not even in theory, in 100% in practice, the War Room in Toronto has multiple people looking at a monitor, reviewing those things, and calling back and going, "This is what happened." And then if it gets wrong, it's the league's fault. The ref gets no blame. You take all the pressure off your referees. You know what I mean? So the NHL wants to take pressure off the refs so they don't get booed and people don't, shout "ref, you suck" and stuff. Great. Now you have, I don't know how many people it is watching it in Toronto. Those guys better 100% get it right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be a riot. If goals start coming off if goals start not counting over stupid stuff, but at least then it's consistent. And part of me would like to see that, because I think the GMs wouldn't like, if the league can't get it right, then the GMs and the owners will start complaining, right? Because like, oh, we missed a playoff spot because you screwed this up, and it wasn't the on-ice officials, and you can't say, oh, it's just a fast game, and all the normal human elements. You go, no, this was the people in Toronto screwing this up because there are all no goals unless there's proof, and you called this goal interference, and it clearly, you know what I mean? You're putting the burden on the league itself rather than the referees. And like you said, referee, even at like going to watch the junior Canes, like those kids are not like so fast you can't follow the game as a ref.
Yeah.
Right. But you can see where once they start getting into the once they start getting into the middle school, high school years, the game gets fast, and referees are not perfect, and we don't want them to be perfect. It'd be great. but I just want them to be consistent. And if the league wants to take the pressure off, then be consistent. Everything that has to be reviewed for goaltender interference or time, if it's a 0.1 seconds on the clock, whatever it is, it's no goal unless the video shows it is 100% a goal. Because in theory, if it's a goal, then the video should show that, right?
It should. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about this.
We
Brad,
did. It fires me up.
Here's the thing, and this might be perhaps the most important aspect of this whole discussion. There's a lot of people in all of these situations where the ref stinks, and we're never going to stop hearing, ref, you suck, from the fans. You're never going to stop hearing that. That's going to go on forever. I don't even know when that started. I don't think it was I don't remember it happening in the 80s or even the early 90s where there was bad. I mean, there's been bad calls for years, but I don't recall, there's booing and stuff, but the chants or whatever. Put that all aside.
Late 90s, we definitely did it at Caps games in the late 90s. So, but
there you go.
I don't know, maybe.
But put that all aside. There's a lot of people that say, just win the game.
Right.
Just win the game.
Score 5, and then that one goal doesn't matter, right?
Exactly. And
maybe.
And there's a point to that too. I mean, there's the most egregious one, like you said, Buffalo getting hosed on that in the Stanley Cup final, the absolute worst. I mean, Buffalo still says Dallas should have an asterisk tied to that one because and they kind of should, because that was terrible. But if they weren't in overtime, if you had scored more goals in regulation, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right. Don't leave it up to the referees.
Yeah, exactly. You may get a half a dozen penalties called against you the entire game and none for the other team, right? And that's happened to Carolina on a few times where there's been a steady stream of canes going to the box and no calls against the other team. And that you really hear the refs, you suck there. And I'm one of the guys chanting them, right?
Well, that's when you need Tim Peel back to want to get one early.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But in the end, it's 60 minutes. Do what you got to do to win the game. And that, I mean, maybe this is much ado about nothing or much ado about something that can never be fixed, or the best way to fix it is to just overcome.
Yeah. And to be fair, as bad as it is, using the EPL as my reference earlier, there's some YouTube videos of the worst English Premier League soccer VAR screw ups.
Yeah.
And some of them are doozies. Some of them would drive hockey fans mad because at least in hockey it's inches. Yeah. But I watched one the other night where a goal was disallowed because they said, the attacking player was offside. But then they zoom out, so the VAR was only looking at the people right in front of the goal. And if you zoom out, there was a defender way all the way in the corner, basically, that it was clearly onside by 3 or 4 feet. But VAR official never looked at the whole picture. He was zoomed in just to see the people right adjacent.
Right.
And I was and that was in an FA Cup match or something. I'm like, oh man, that's can you imagine?
That's terrible.
That's I'm trying to remember who it was. But somebody in the NHL went down, scored an empty net goal, and they were 3 feet off sides. The puck was in the zone for 2 or 3 full seconds before they entered the zone. And the referee's oh, that's a good goal. Did you?
I remember that one.
Offsides.
I remember that one. And in fact, they go to they show the blue line where they're trying to decide, that's the shot that you get to determine the really close ones, like the one that Jackson Blake got called back on, right? The guy was so far offside, you couldn't see him on the screen on that shot. That's how far offside the guy was. And everyone just blew it. And it was, oh my goodness.
And that's where, at least in soccer, the video review guy, the VR guy, can go, hey, you need to look at this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
a
wow,
little
that was
bug in
like,
the
this is
ear.
egregious. You're about to blow this.
Although I like Rod's thing too, is you go back to having one ref on the ice and one upstairs.
I love that idea.
That's a great idea because again, the guy upstairs, we talk about it all the time as fans. It's great to be down on the glass because you feel it. You see, it's up close, it's whatever. But when you are all the way back in 300, you know what I mean? You see things develop and the plays come, and it's a different experience, right? And equally enjoyable. So, uh, this is a tough conversation for anyone, and we hope we don't ever have to really talk about it again. We always will have to talk about it because again, refs make mistakes just like the players do.
Just don't make us the Sabres in the story. Let us be the Stars.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Let's look ahead. And the whole reason why we started this conversation was because I wanted to look ahead at who we got, and we talked about OV. They're part of this as well. So let's get to it. The Islanders this afternoon, always a tough game because and we I want to say the Canes bring, I don't want to say the worst out in the Islanders. We know some great Islander fans. Okay.
Yep.
And so, but there is something there. It's not as pronounced as, say, the Rangers, right? Or not as pronounced as it is with the Caps, but there's something there. I guess.
These teams, I think, inherently play very similar physical styles at times.
Yeah.
And I don't think, it's not the Rangers where they really are brawling, but like there's a general dislike, I think, which is fun.
Well,
like
two straight playoff seasons where you meet, that'll do it too, right? If there wasn't one there before, it will now. So
yeah, the Islanders got some little brother syndrome going on with the Rangers and the Devils too. So
yeah. And then we go to, it's a weird one. The NHL schedule in general has always been like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are the big full schedule games with so much going on. This time around, we get today, we get Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And the only game really that, we were talking about magic numbers. By the end of this week, we should be in.
Yeah.
We should be in.
Yeah, 8 possible points this week, and you just need to get 4 or have the other teams lose 4 points. That's all.
Yeah.
You don't even need to get 4 of your own.
Now, let's see. Wednesday. Who is it? Is it the Red Wings again on Wednesday? No.
Capitals Wednesday.
Capitals Wednesday.
Red Wings Friday. Bruins Saturday.
Right. And so, the Wings game is going to be tough. It's in Detroit. So much to play for. So that's going to be big. The Caps game will be fun to watch, and would love to be in the barn. And you know what? Even if OVs, that's really, it's the measuring stick game for how things could be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the situation. It's going to be the one that you really want. I'm looking at this as at least 6 points. Like 6 points. And man, you've got to have it. You got to have it.
Get the 4 you need. Don't leave it in anybody else's hands. Get the 4 that you need first. Yep. Today, if you beat the Islanders in regulation, you're most of the way there. Beat the Caps. Just show up and beat the Caps. Just as you said, measuring stick game. And then you have 2.5 weeks left, and not coast, but just make sure everybody's healthy, right? Jasper Fast is the only person out right now. Get Morrow in the lineup, get him some reps. I I know Burns has a streak, but rest up Burns and go from there.
And you know what? We're running out of time on the broadcast, but that's one of the things that we'll talk about next week, and that is the embarrassment of riches, but the who is coming out if you've got everyone, and that's going to be a really tough question.
It is.
And
good decision to have, right?
Oh yes,
better than the opposite.
No question. So, and we'll touch on that next week. This has been great. It's kind of unfortunate because John, who started out, you know what, technical difficulties, those things happen. Trust me, I know.
We'll invite John back on, though. We'll make it work.
We will absolutely make it work and give him his chance because, again, being a hockey parent, they are out of this world parents, and you could hear the joy in his voice. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't even skate, but I wanted to get the kids involved, and the influence, that, we've had Shane Willis on, and he has been a big part of that, and meeting the players. Like, there's nothing better than kids, meeting the players. You know what I mean? Like, that's fantastic.
Family atmosphere. We talk about it all the time.
And we've got a great guest next week who became one of my favorite Caniacs of all time, based on one small thing that happened with the team that shall not be named. Instantly one of my favorites. So a little teaser for you. We like to do that every now and again. Thank you to John. Thank you, Brad. Always fun to talk. And really, there's only one thing left. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.